Well, President Trump not going into detail about his strategy for dealing with North Korea. During an interview with the Reuters news agency yesterday, Mr. Trump says he's not ruling out diplomacy despite failed attempts in the past. The president saying, "I'm not sure that talks will lead to anything meaningful. They've talked for 25 years and they've taken advantage of our presidents, of our previous presidents." He goes on to say, "We're playing a very, very hard game of poker and you don't want to reveal your hand." Joining us now, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. He's also a senior fellow and military expert for defense priorities. Thanks, sir, for being here. There is this notion going around Washington that perhaps you could undertake a limited military strike against North Korea, a so-called bloody nose strike, to paralyze some, element of their infrastructure or their military capability and show them what we are capable of. What do you think of that notion?
Well, let me just tell you flat out, first of all, there will be no war on the Korean Peninsula unless we start one with some kind of preventive action like this attempt at a bloody nose, because it will not work. I mean, look, there is no doubt in anyone's mind on the planet that we have the ability 100 times over to destroy North Korea. So there's no need to do a bloody nose strike to show them that. They already know that.
So then why is Kim Jong-un being so belligerent and threatening, to inflame the United States in a sea of fire, for instance?
Well, I think we have to be very careful to examine exactly what he is saying and look at the reasons why. He is not using, he is not intending to use his military, his nuclear power in order to threaten the United States in terms of an offensive operation. He has been very clear on numerous levels, both in diplomatic and otherwise, that says he wants this as a deterrent. He wants this to prevent the United States from attacking him. And I think that that's part of our problem, is that I think we have the idea that he's trying to get this capability so we can attack the United States. And there's no evidence that he would be willing to do that, which is why diplomacy and continuing to talk is so critical, because we don't want to start the very war that we claim we're trying to prevent.
But this president and others have said they will never allow a nuclearized North Korea.
They have said that, and I hope that they would set a different objective, because that's not one that's value or it's valid in terms of the reasons to go to war. You go to war because you're literally being threatened with attacks. For example, if we had even intelligence that said he was preparing to launch a weapon against the United States, that's a valid reason to, in that case, use preemptive war. But if he's not going to attack the United States, I mean, just having a capability is not a reason to go to war, because we have to understand, you wouldn't succeed at taking away his capability. You would just cause him to use it. And that harms our own interests, and we can't do that.
North Korea and South Korea have been holding talks. Some have suggested that the South Koreans are sort of allowing themselves to be taken advantage of and driving a wedge between our country and theirs. What do you think?
Yeah, they're not. Nobody on the planet has more incentive for this to be resolved in diplomatic, political, and non-lethal ways than South Korea, because they would suffer more than anyone if this turns into a war. But concurrently, they also recognize that the United States has been their closest ally, and the reason possibly why there hadn't been any conflict since 1953, when the armistice was signed. So the idea that they would put a wedge between us and side with North Korea over us is just not realistic. And I think you see even within their own internal politics in the last couple of days that there's plenty of people that say, hey, they're very angry at North Korea and said, hey, we're not going to go too far down this road here, because we recognize that our future lies with the protection of the United States and not with North Korea.
Interesting perspective. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you.